Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I'm your host, Vinay, with my co host, Raj. Uh, we are on the eve of the NBA starting, and the Lakers finally have their first game of the regular season on Tuesday. And what we wanted to do for tonight's pod was, just sort of talk about some of the season predictions that we have. Um, Raj and I will kind of give some of the scenarios of panic and jubilation that are possible depending on how we start this season, and just a couple situations where certain people we think might raise their stock to the casual,
Mm,
non-hardcore Laker audience, and some who could maybe go in the opposite direction. And then maybe just talk a little bit about some of the general stuff that's going on with the league. And then after that, what we're planning on doing, hopefully, if this works correctly, is trying to get folks that are in the space an opportunity to talk. I don't know, give what their season predictions may be, whether it's for the Lakers or whether it's for somebody else. It doesn't have to be anything specific to a player or to a team, but we thought it would be fun. This is also an opportunity, just so the folks know, for us to actually capture your responses and then be able to like put them on the podcast too as well. I know a lot of times when people do spaces, it just lives on Twitter and then you never get to, that if you don't listen to it on Twitter, you won't hear it. But we're trying to get it so that we can get you guys on the pod too as well, with us when we have these sort of discussions. So looking forward to it. But Raj, before we get into it, how was your weekend? How's your weekend been going?
it's good, man. The last weekend without basketball, as I tweeted out the other day. So the long, actually didn't feel that long of a summer. It just felt like there was basketball kind of throughout it. But the last weekend without NBA hoops preseason is over. So the season's coming back on Tuesday. I'm excited
Yes.
to get back into the regular, content and the regular games and all the rewatches and all stuff like that. So I'm good. Got my all my chores done on the weekend and ready to just live, on basketball throughout this week, opening week.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you, dude. I had I'm definitely tired, just like you are. I had two soccer games. We always do like this
Mm,
thing where we talk about our personal lives a little bit before we jump into it. But uh, had two soccer games. Had an 8 a.m. soccer game yesterday,
mm.
which my daughter's team won, and then we had one today against like the best team in the league, and they got whooped really bad today. But we're 4-4 on the season, so that's good, and we're making progress. We're getting better one day at a time. Similar to what we're hoping is going to happen with our Lakers team this season.
Yes.
We've been watching them in preseason. We've done everybody's done preseason recaps and all that sort of stuff. And we've seen a lot of really good stuff out of this team. So we're hoping all of those small things finally come together in the regular season, and we can, just essentially have a good start. We don't want the 2-10 start that we had last season. We want something that's a little bit better than that. So, in the spirit of that, there are some things that happened last season that I'm curious to know what your thoughts are for this upcoming season. So, first and foremost, the toughest question of them all: do you think LeBron's three ball is going to bounce back from last season? For reference, last season was probably one of the worst 3-point shooting seasons he had, like since his rookie year, I would say.
Mm.
And it got better, I would say, after the trade deadline, but for like the games prior to that, he was really bad. And I think most Laker fans would agree that he was very out of the ordinary for what he is. Do you think this upcoming season, LeBron's three ball bounces back?
I do. I'm not sure if it'll ever bounce like maybe to that 40% range or anything like that, but I think Vinay he should get better looks this season. I'm hopeful that they're not as much off the dribble shots, and I think we've already seen in preseason he's looked very comfortable and maybe he has his legs back or something like that, but he's just looked really comfortable on the spot up looks. So I think
Mm-hmm.
his three ball will get, and honestly, I think we've spoken about this on the pod, but the team needs his three ball to get there,
Yeah.
right? I just think like that's a very important part of our offense is LeBron shooting, because I just think in an 82 game regular season grind, he's not going to want to drive to the rim a ton. He's not going to want to put his body through that. And an easy way to kind of go around that is to take jump shots. And it gets annoying at times. I know, especially late in games, it can get annoying to watch, but I think that's just the way that he's able to take his body through an 82 game grind. But I do think the jump shot will come back to an extent. I don't think he's going to be some above average 3-point shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great we now have a team where he doesn't have to be an above average 3-point shooter. Like I think there were lineups last year where he was the best shooter on the floor, and I think that's an issue, right? I think if you have a team where if you have a roster where LeBron is your best shooter on the floor, then you have some issues. But at least that should not be the case this season. D'Lo, Austin, even Torian, that allows AD and LeBron to not have to be super threats as jump shooters, but I still think he needs to be at some league average level. He's going to take his fair share of shots from beyond the arc, but as long as it's within the flow of the offense, some of that holding and stare at the ball before he shoots, like that stuff is going to be there. That's the LeBron move, I guess, now that we see on Twitter every week. But like, yeah, to me, like that's the point with his jump shot. I don't think it's going to come back to some super level, but I think at least the spot up threes, and he should get more in motion catch and shoot shots with all the cards we have off the dribble. But what do you think? Do you think his jump shot's coming back?
Yeah, I think just him not having to attack the rim as much as he probably did
Yeah.
last season, just because AD was out and we just outside of Russ, we didn't have too many guys attacking the rim. I mean that's not true. We had Dennis and we had a few other guys, but I think the need for him to have to score and the way teams are, defenders are trying to press him and try to wear down his legs and stuff like that, it just kind of forced him to the rim a lot more than he probably would have liked. And so I think it bounces back because there'll be more. He won't have to do as much on defense, hopefully, and he's probably going to be eating off of a lot of the other stuff that gets generated. We've talked ad nauseum about the ball screen offense that the Lakers run. Like it's an offense that the big man has to be involved. So it's going to be stuff. It's going to be advantages that get created off of AD's screen and roll action or pick and pop action with Christian Wood, whoever it ends up being. And I think he'll probably be able to. What we've seen in the preseason is that he hasn't really forced his shots.
Yeah.
It seems like he's kind of like when the lineup is dedicated for him and he's like the point guard and he gets to pick and choose how he wants to score, he does it. But for the most part, it seems like it's come to him very comfortably. His three balls look really good in the preseason. His legs look like they're underneath him. He had like that weird hitch where he just kept shooting off of like his left foot, it seemed like last season, I think because his right foot or whichever one was the bum one, he was shooting off the other one. It's just looked more in rhythm. It's looked a lot better. I know a lot of folks have talked about Anthony Davis' shooting, but Bron shooting has been, just jump shooting has been just as nice to see. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it bounces back. I don't think it's gonna hit like 40%, but I think it'll be respectable level.
Yeah, and he's gonna have games where he hits like 5 threes in a game where he goes like 1 for 6, right? I think that's just the nature of LeBron shooting. It's not like a very flow mechanical shot. So I just don't think he's gonna get, shoot from like 40%. But he doesn't need to on this team. And I think we're a team that's gonna rely heavily on the other ball screen guards. He's gonna have his unit, right? I think we talked about off the bench where he's gonna be able to attack and have the basketball. And I think we've both kind of advocated for Gabe Vincent to be in that lineup to where he can be the, gunslinger in that lineup where it's a quick fire, quick trigger. I think with the starters, we saw it all preseason, even in the game that was supposed to be the dress rehearsal, which the rotations didn't match that. But at least the play hopefully in the first quarter did. We saw a lot of just really ball movement, a lot of D'Lo running stuff, Austin running stuff, a lot of screen action in the middle of the floor where Austin's the one handling, D'Lo's the one handling. I'm interested, Vinay. Last season, a lot of our offense was LeBron kind of mismatch hunting, you know what I mean? And I'm wondering if that's still the case this year, since our offense is a lot more motion, a lot more space. I underestimated the effect of Taurean Prince on that. I think he's completely changed the dynamic of how teams have to guard us. And again, it changes how many jump shots LeBron and AD need, and I think it really elevates them to where their paint pressure is now accelerated due to the shooting around. And I'm just fascinated to see how LeBron approaches that. A lot of jump shots. I said this stat I think 2 pods ago. LeBron led the league in shot attempts. I think that's an insane stat for year 20, whatever he was last year, year 20. So hopefully he doesn't have to lead the league in shots this year, Renee. And I think a lot of those, if you could look at it, I think he took like 7 threes a game. I don't have the exact number how many threes a game, but I know it was high. It was a exorbitant amount of threes. So hopefully, he can.
I want to say it was about 6. Yeah, it was a little bit. It was definitely higher than what he normally takes for sure.
Right. Yeah. So hopeful this year that it doesn't have to be that high to where he doesn't have to be putting up like 7 or 8 threes a game. Hopefully the shooting allows him to attack the paint a little bit more, get to what he wants to do, attack and transition with a space floor and stuff like that. Really just, helps his body get through a regular season. But he's looked good. He looks fine. He looks healthy. Him and AD, this looks like the healthiest they've looked in preseason, knock on wood, for like the last 3 seasons. Those two look the healthiest that they've been. They look in mid-season form. So hopefully that translates to Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think this is a nice transition directly into his counterpart,
Mm,
AD's jump shooting. You and I have already kind of laughed at the idea of him taking 6 threes a game, as Darvin Ham has said, and I don't think anybody who's actually watched his team with any level of like conviction thinks that he's going to start attempting a bunch of threes, but his jump shooting coming back is definitely helpful, and I think that's something that all Laker fans would want to see out of him. That even if it's a long two or the free throw line two or even those short mid range floaters that he likes to take, um, if he can get back to hitting some of those with some consistency, that'll help the team out. It'll help him out honestly because teams
mm-hmm,
won't be able to load up against him at the rim, especially if he wants to choose between whether he wants to dive or whether he wants to jump. We've already seen variations of lineups where it's supposed to be AD and one of AD or Christian Wood. One of them has to be inside, one of them has to be outside. We've seen versions where both of them are outside, just in terms of how they're oriented on the floor in like the half court. So if that kind of stuff is going to happen, or if AD is going to decide that maybe I don't feel like posting up constantly or getting I'm not getting a lot of times it's because he's not getting foul calls. Like he's going to the rim, they're not calling
mm,
fouls. So it happens to every NBA player. It just encourages them to not go to the rim. The refs basically do that. And so if that's going to happen, he's got to hit those jump shots. And so I think that's something that's definitely going to trend up. I think Bron is going to go back to being more of a league average, at least a league average three ball shooter. And I think AD's jump shot is going to come back. And the leading thing that I have that convinces me of that is the
mm,
confidence that he's taking them with.
yeah.
He, for the past couple of seasons, it's felt like he's hesitated a lot to take them. Meaning when he catches it, he doesn't decisively go, okay, you know what, I'm going to take this one dribble, I'm going to pull up, or I'm going to take this two dribble or pull up, or I'm going to post up, turn around, and take the fade. A lot of times it's like I'm dribbling, I'm thinking, oh crap, here comes the double team. What am I going to do? That sort of thing. And occasionally we would get him doing fast reaction stuff. But this preseason, it seemed like he's had much more confidence, self confidence in his shot,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that jump shot should improve. What are your thoughts on whether his jump shooting comes back, or what are your like your expectations? Like
Yeah.
what kind of jump shooting are you hoping to get out of him?
Yeah, I mean it's great. He's taking them within confidence. It's also preseason. Like I gotta see it
Mm-hmm.
to believe it. I mean, what happens when a
Yep.
cold stretch happens in the regular season? I think I could easily see him, just revert to not wanting to take jump shots. I think it's a team better equipped to handle that, Renee. I think this is a team with more shooting to where Anthony Davis doesn't have to be the 3-point shooter. And I've said this before. His percentages don't really bother me too much. I think he has
Mm-hmm.
to take the wide open ones. I like the corner threes for him in rhythm with confidence. But to me, the stuff that makes AD special is when he can post up on a guy and take like pull up jump shots, or that's when he's feeling himself, right? The crossover through the legs, step backs, the fadeaway turnarounds, that stuff that's just in his wheelhouse. That no matter what he's shooting from three, you could tell once he gets just as a shooter, right? When you get into a rhythm of a shot, Anthony Davis has taken that turnaround fade so many times to where that's to me that's in his bag and those are shots that I want to see him taking. Right in that free throw line area, right in the extended free throw line area. To me, that's where he can. You can even pop to those spots. To me, we're using him as
Mm-hmm.
like the second screener, as a role guy. But when he's like next to Jackson Hayes, when he's next to Christian Wood, stuff like that, I'd love to see him kind of operate in that kind of mid post area where I think he's comfortable. But I got to see it to believe it with the 3-point shooting, and I don't really expect it. I don't think his jump shot needs to be, or he needs to be some 3-point, super threat for this team to be good. I just need him to take the open ones, which I think he's going to do at a certain level. But the 6 threes a game, the preseason jump shots going in, that's all great. You'd rather have that than not. I just once the season starts and it's coming in from game flow action, I gotta
Yeah.
see it to believe it. It's been a few seasons now. He took like 1 3 a game, but it's very tough to go from that to, you know what I mean, to a legit threat from
Yeah.
outside, especially this quick. Maybe in midseason where he's got comfortable with it and sees it going in at a respectable rate, then he puts those up a little bit more. But other than that, like I just want AD to be AD. He'll be the best defensive player in basketball. He'll be a superhuman role threat. And just a pterodactyl on both ends, and I think that's what this team needs, and it has the offensive firepower to supplement that, to where he doesn't have to be this 3-point threat as he did previous years, because sometimes he and LeBron were the best shooters on the floor, and that's a very backwards
Yeah.
way to build a team. But that was just the roster that we had.
Talk to me about AD as the offensive hub. We know
Yeah,
that AD, there is a gap in his playmaking. He isn't a traditional playmaker in the same way that LeBron is. This has been like one of the things that's like stopped him from being able to take the offense, like take over, like be the lead guy on the Lakers. He doesn't create for others in the same way that LeBron does. LeBron does it.
mm,
We've seen Luca do it that way. We've seen Trae Young do it that way. We've seen so many of these ball dominant guards who can get 2 feet in the paint and they're looking, James Harden. Um,
yeah,
they do those kickouts, the driving kicks, and that sort of stuff. That's the way that that is a way that is very common for people who watch basketball to view it.
mm,
If you had to ask Kevin Durant the definition of playmaking, it probably wouldn't just be driving and kicking the ball to open teammates. It's probably being able to command double teams, which AD is certainly able to do. So he does have
sure.
a form of playmaking, but it's not, what you get out of LeBron. But in this preseason, he's been passing it more. He's been
Yeah.
creating more out of where he likes to get the ball. Talk to me about what you think. Like, do you think that's a feasible, like it's a long-term way to use AD? The different ways that we use it, bringing the ball up the floor. He catches at the free throw line, decides whether he wants to kick it to a shooter in the corner or attack the rim, stuff that he does out of the post. What have you seen about him as an offensive hub?
Yeah, I remember for the last few years that we've been doing this and just talking on and offline, I've said, there's many ways to build an offense around AD, and it's not just give him the ball on the post, right? Which we've been doing. Just give him the ball on the post and let him, clear out. I don't think that's where he's best. I do think that's where he wants to be, but to me, that's not where he's used best. To me, his best offensive hub ability is that ability to be a screener, right? Because it just collapses the defense in a way where he doesn't have to be the one breaking them down with his handle or backing them down or using any kind of putting a physical toll on his body. And to me, we built a team that does that. And we've modernized our offense so much, Vinay, where his reads aren't as complicated to me. Like they're
Mhm.
more within the flow. They're kind of, okay, if I catch in the short roll, this guy tags here, then it's a skip to the corner, right? And before, what teams would do, because we just had so little shooting on the floor, they'd be able to help like one pass away and also have the tag guy like right in the paint, right? To where like the pass is almost is like an advanced read where he has to fake to the corner or hit to the wing and stuff like that. And I think now since the floor is spaced so well, his reads are a little bit more simple. If my tag is here, I hit the corner. If they help one pass away, I have a shooter that's able to lock and load from that position. And I think that just makes stuff easier for him. And the combination to me of the ball screen guards with Anthony Davis to me is like a hand in glove fit. I think you'll see it with Gabe, although they haven't played much together. Austin and AD, I think, had really quick chemistry once we started handed the keys over to him. Right? If you watch these late playoff games, a lot of them Vinay or Austin and AD screens. Like the way we close Memphis, AD Austin screen roll. I dare you, Jaren Jackson Jr. to go under, or I dare you to chase over, and I have AD on the roll there. And we've really kind of built upon that to where now D'Lo and AD. I think the first play of the game against the Nets was a empty side screen where they clear out a whole side where AD and D'Lo just run one action, and it was a lob to AD, right? And I just those two building chemistry that way. So I think his passing reads. I think his passing has gone better as a Laker. I think I tweeted out one pass where he like skipped to the corner to the wing to Rui, like a jump pass almost, stuff that wasn't really in his arsenal. I think he still has trouble seeing like behind him, if that makes sense, like just having a mapping of the floor to where he can read where defenders are. But I think like with a modern offense, it simplifies his reads and allows him to operate as a playmaker more. I think he's racked up like 3-4 assists in every first quarter just because of the attention that he's getting and able to kick it out to Torian, who I said before, one of my favorite things about him is he doesn't have to be open to shoot. And those are stuff that I
Yeah.
love about our shooters, where they don't need to be wide open, where the shot for them is not a last resort, it's a first resort. And that type of stuff helps AD out, in my opinion. But what do you think? What do you think about his playmaking, what he's looked like so far as a passer in preseason?
Yeah, I like that they're forcing him to be. Well, I don't know if forcing him is the right word, but I like that he's being put in position to have to create for his teammates. And I
Mm-hmm.
think part of a lot of the stuff that we talked about, I think fans in general, rightfully so, have talked about is the improved shooting on this team. Like we've been seeing like an onslaught of threes. all
Yeah.
preseason, just a barrage of them. They're not even thinking twice about taking them. They're actively hunting them with confidence, shooting them with confidence. And the roster is certainly a much better jump shooting roster
Mhm.
than the previous 2 years. But I think also at the same time, like the roster is allowing AD to become a better passer. Like he can
Yeah.
pass it to his teammates and be like, okay, even if this is semi-contested for Austin, he's probably still going to make it. We're still going to get a good look off of this action. Like I don't have to, you know, basically run up against the wall every single possession to try and get a good possession out of this. And I think that is going to be helpful. I think also them mixing up the offense that the way they have in the preseason, where they like, I think we talked about it. You mentioned like D'Lo is in the first half. He's the one who's getting a lot of to start the game. He's the one who's aggressive, looking to score. And then we start mixing in AD. Then we mix in LeBron. And then in the second half, I mean, and we pepper in Austin Reeves here and there with off-ball action stuff. But in the second half is when Austin gets a lot of his on-ball reps. And it's just like there's like this constant flow of different guys that are involved with directing the offense or taking the shots. And I think that's helped. That's allowed the Lakers to not have to, like, you remember we used to start off games, like every time we play the Clippers, we would always start off like our first three possessions would be AD isolations on the left wing. And I was
Yeah.
like, they know how to defend this. Like we're going to see this every single time. And
Ty Lue
and
defends that in his sleep. Absolutely.
yeah, like he knows what he's doing against that. And so like if like I can't remember a time where we just had to do that constantly in the preseason. Can you? Like that we just kept spamming a left block ISO to AD on every
No.
possession. Like a lot of it was middle of the floor, a lot of it was screening, a lot of it was him on the perimeter and the ball getting swung around to him. So it's just like I think that him being an offensive hub is going to be doing the stuff in between, like
Yeah.
the rebound, pushing it in transition, a la Jokic, screening, catching, skip passing it to somebody because there's too many guys in the paint, that sort of thing, or taking the jumper. I think that's the way it's really going to be. It still won't be in the traditional sense that we think of that LeBron does it. Gets it at half court, drives on his guy, kicks it out, does some crazy no look pass to a teammate. But I think it's going to be some modified version of that.
Right. And I just want to make, because you said, more shooting on the team, which is true. I also think a distinction that should be made is it's more pull-up jump shooting too, right? And I
Yeah.
think that, to me, changes the whole dynamic of how you have to guard the team. They were just spot-up guys. Even though that's helpful, obviously Torian's more in the spot-up role. Although, like, he's been a lot more off the dribble stuff than I expected from him, at least just from watching him from afar.
Yeah.
He was kind of billed as just sole 3-and-D player, but they've really had him. He's really comfortable attacking off closeouts, and that's just stuff you do when you're a 3-and-D guy, right? Once guys kind of run at you, you have to develop the next level of your progression in your game. But like, to me, the pull-up jump shooting is what changes everything. With him and especially with Austin's ascension. And I've talked about this before, but I remember, at media day where they had like them three, taking the picture together and people kind of laugh, like the, new big three and all that stuff. But it's, it's cool to kind of see that, I guess, in basketball form where like again, when the game was real, which, no one cares. We lost by 30. No one else was rewatching, I think, that game. But like, if you go and rewatch the second quarter of against, I was gonna say Nets, but Suns. KD's on the Suns. When you go watch the second quarter of that Suns game, 4 straight plays, Vinay, I think we ran the exact same play, where it was Austin at the top of the key. You had Torian in one corner and D'Lo in another corner. You had Austin, Bron, AD in the middle of the floor, and it's Bron screening for AD's guy, right? So AD's coming to screen for Austin, and Bron is screening AD's guy while it's coming up, right? And so AD comes to screen for Austin, and now it's what are you doing, right? Are you switching this Bron AD action? Are you coming out on Austin? And 3 different, the Suns defended it 3 different ways, and the Lakers scored 3 different ways. So I think the first time they overplayed and LeBron got a layup. The second time, who's the guard that everyone hates that's on the Suns? The small guard, I forgot his name. Who came from the Bucks? Why am I forgetting his name?
Oh, Grayson Allen.
Grayson Allen, yes. Grayson Allen went under the screen, and Austin stepped back for 3. And the next play, Grayson Allen chased over, and Austin got a floater. Because obviously, it's against Nurkic, so take that as you will. But Austin scored on the floor, and I was watching that. I'm like, I wonder what the coverage that's correct there, because you can't really play off Torian. I guess you can try to dare D'Lo to shoot and whatever. But like to me, like those are really good corner shooters, and then that's LeBron and AD running, action in the middle of the floor with Austin, who's just become, this scoring guard threat. I think that's the stuff to me that you can tell makes life really easy for Bron and AD, right? Because they're not really they're not collapsing the defense with their own ball handling. They're not collapsing it, having to go one-on-one against a team that's all loaded against you, right? 5-10 eyes on you at one time. And that really makes it easier for them. And I think like Austin and D'Lo shooting along with Torian and Gabe's supplements LeBron and AD's attack, when in past years you have guys who want to operate in the same airspace as them, right? You have a lot of guys who want to drive to the rim. Dennis Schroeder, Russell Westbrook, even Lonnie Walker. All those guys are kind of guys that want to attack the paint. And we have a bunch of guys now that are hunting shots from the outside, which allows them to attack the rim. So hopefully all that helps them get easier shots and allows them to really, manage themselves going forward in the season.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Like I think I didn't think of it so much as pull up jump shooting versus just like this standard catch and shoot stuff. Because I always thought that defense is kind of respected both ways.
Sure.
But you're actually right. Like the threat of pull up shooting is very different compared to somebody who just stands in one spot and catch and shoot. Because a lot of times, guys who are strictly catch and shoot type of players, they can you don't have to worry about the threat of them attacking the rim, and pulling up in the mid range or doing anything with it. So the Lakers do actually have, you're right, a few guys, D'Lo, Austin, Gabe, Max to some degree. We've seen him do it in the preseason too as well. That are very capable of getting their own shot coming off of a screen action or using that mid range area or a floater or whatever it may be when it comes to it. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. Do you think teams will adjust quickly? Well, actually, before I do that, before we get to that question, do you think teams are prepared for the Lakers to be a better jump shooting team, assuming that they're as good as we think they're going to be?
I think teams will still prepare as they did before. I think I remember we were watching the game against, I forgot who they were playing, Sacramento or something, but they continued to just guard us like they did a season ago, and the Lakers rained threes on them. I think they'll adjust to that. But like first and foremost, I think everyone's defensive game plan starting out is going to be don't allow LeBron and AD to attack the paint. Right. I think that has just a domino effect on your defense. It puts your bigs in foul trouble. It also just is. That's going to be top of the list, but I do think they'll adjust eventually. I think if you're getting threes rain on you, and it's not just the adjustment, Vinay, it's that like 2-second indecision, right? Like to me, that's what it is right there. Like that's what changes it. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is, right? That indecision of, damn, do I come over or do I stay on my guy? Right. And that to me before that was just, there was no indecision. That was, I'm coming over every single time and I'm daring whoever's in this corner here. And Vanderbilt's going to get that for sure. Like that's going to, Vanderbilt teams are never going to, game plan to take away Jared Vanderbilt open shooting. That's just not, I don't care if he hits, maybe if he hits 8 in a row, but if he hits like 3 in a row, teams are still going to let him go. But the other guys, though, at least it's some indecision. Do I leave Torian in the corner? He's just hit 2. Like, do I leave Torian in the corner or do I, come over? And by the time your brain kind of makes that decision, whichever way, if you're coming over to help and you're late on a LeBron drive, it's over, right? He's already at the basket. He's putting you in the rim. He's able to finish. Anthony Davis same way on the roll. I think those kind of things really make a difference to me in your offense, and it's why other teams that are, it's why Giannis gets like 50 dunks a game, right? It's because they put a legit guy in the corner. If you want to leave Middleton, if you want to leave Brook Lopez, now it's Damian Lillard, my God. But like if you want to leave those guys in and help out, it's a little indecision where Giannis is putting you in the basket, and I think hopefully the Lakers can do some of that.
Yeah, I'm with you there on that. It'll be interesting to see just kind of how teams respond to. I'm honestly willing to say I don't think teams are going to be ready for it. I think that we're going to go through like 10 games, and if the Lakers are shooting really well from 3, like then maybe teams will start adjusting. But I think like initially, like I think there is an element of surprise that the Lakers do have, like this Denver game, the Suns game. Like right now, the talk is like, oh, the Suns have, maybe they're not a good defensive team, or they don't have enough depth. But a lot of people are probably like, well, they've got a ton of shooting, right? Like they've got Beal, they got Booker, they got KD, and a bunch of 3-and-D guys that they'll surround them with. But I don't think that's what people are saying about the Lakers. Like I don't think anybody is saying, hey, this Lakers team is actually a much better shooting team than people realize. You guys should pay attention before it's too late. I certainly think we can catch a lot of teams off guard. And I think that might be the way to catch teams off guard to start the season. Like if they're packing the paint and not respecting the ability to make threes, that's where you got to make them pay, try to take advantage. And then maybe the second time we play a team or the third time we play a team in the regular season, if it's a Western Conference team, like that's when they'll probably try to adjust to what we're doing. But I think that element of surprise to some degree, is still on our end, because I think, just like you said, most teams are going to be like, well, you have to show it to me. Like I have to see you make 23s on me before I'm actually going to respect that you're a 3-point shooting team. I think Lakers we've got a chip on our shoulder. I guess that's my next question. Do you think the Lakers this season feels like a season where we have a chip on our shoulder? Do you think we have a chip on? Does the team identity strike you as a team that has a chip on its shoulder?
It definitely does. I think it's nice to have a team that went through some wars and, got the same battle scratches on them, right? They have similar wounds that have to heal at the same time. I like that. Even the guys we brought in, Gabe Vincent obviously just lost in the finals as well, right? So I think it's nice you have a bunch of guys who went through some wars and are able to come back and battle together. But I do. The talking crap with Denver, I don't really buy that as something that is revolving around the team. I think they've kind of moved past that. I think that's more of a one-way thing. We'll see how that works opening night. I'm afraid, people are waiting for all the talk and then you get blown out in Denver, so I don't want to put that forward, but I do think it feels like the vibes are good. It feels like the camaraderie is back. It feels like the team is in a nice place. I think just going through that battle and having continuity, it feels like there is a chip on the shoulder. LeBron and AD, I'm sure, heard you got swept 3 million times this summer, and I'm sure that's not.
Oh, for sure.
That's not fun. So with them, I'm sure they're ready to come out. And AD, to me though, Vinay, looks the most ready that he's looked in preseason. I think as a Laker, I think the year one when we got him, he was also really good in that first preseason game. But the next ones, he's kind of walked his way through preseason to get ready for the season. And this time it does look like he's ultra confident and ready. So what do you see? Do you see that as well? A motivated Laker team?
Yeah, this team feels like it has a little bit of a chip on its shoulder. I think that, like, every NBA season, like now for sure, and maybe it's a little arrogant to say something like this, but like it feels like everybody's if your team sucks or if your team is good, it doesn't matter as long as the Lakers lose. And I think that's just part of like obviously unless you're a Laker fan, like I think that's the default position. That's my most humble way of saying it. I think that's the default position of the 29 other fan bases in the NBA. Like they just like, oh, my team's not good. Like we're aiming for whoever is going to be the number one pick next year. Whatever, who cares? Did the Lakers lose? That's what matters. Like that, it seems as though like us not getting to 18, even though we're trying to do all the things the right way to get to number 18, is like on everybody's mind. And it's a bizarre thing to see because it's been a couple of years since we won our championship, and we're certainly not the team that people are considering a super team or a team that has overwhelming talent compared to the other team. Obviously, LeBron's much older. He's kind of in his twilight years not in terms of his production, but in terms of like who he is. Like a lot of ESPN ranks and everybody, they have him like some people have him outside of the top 10. Some people have him on like the bottom half of the top 10. And sometimes 80's not even in the top 10. And sometimes he is. I think Complex was the only one I saw that had them both in the top 10 of all like the different media lists that they were. But even if they're not that high up in the ranks, the individual player ranks and stuff like that, everybody's locked in on making sure that the Lakers, celebrating that the Lakers don't make it to the playoffs or they don't win a championship. So it's just like, I think this team has a chip on its shoulder because of that. Because, in modern basketball, everybody's online. These dudes all have Twitter accounts. These dudes all have Instagram accounts. They see the comments, they see the jokes. We had a preseason game against the Suns, and the quote that was on Bleacher Report was KD telling the assistant coach Jordan Knott, who used to be part of the Brooklyn Nets assistant coach bench, like he was jokingly telling him, he's just like, "Hey, don't have Austin Reeves guard me like a week from now," talking about the Tuesday game. And he's joking around. You can see on the player on the court they were messing around with each other. And it's cool that Austin gets that acknowledgement from a guy like KD, especially off the heels of Team USA and whatnot. But it's like people like that. A role player on somebody else's team doesn't make news like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's whether you want to say it's a fan base, whether you say it's the media is leeching onto us, whatever it is, like that's still a thing. And I think these players see that kind of stuff, and I think it gives them an opportunity. And like, look, financial incentive is taken care of. These dudes are all getting paid now. They've got their contracts. None of these guys are fighting for their. Well, some of them are, but most of the core rotation guys aren't fighting for their next contract. They kind of know where they're at, and they're comfortable with where they're at. So it's just like, it's just go play basketball, dude. Like if anybody's got an issue with you or an issue with your ability as a basketball player, that's it. That's the chip on your shoulder right there. And we just got a comment. And if you guys want, you guys can always leave a comment in the space, and then we'll read them out to you. The friend of the show, Shub of Coach's Den, the other Lakers group, they do the post game space and stuff. A wonderful job. One of the things that Shub commented was, that we'll find out if this team has a chip on their shoulder through the domination of what the captains do, what LeBron and AD. What is their mentality when it comes to the game? And the tone they set. Do you think Bron usually takes like 10 games to kind of warm up? But
I hope he doesn't this year. I hope he doesn't this year. This is not the year to do that.
You think he hits the ground running? This is a nice.
It feels like it.
A question off of what he said. Is this urgency? Did the Lakers come in with full urgency?
I think so. Real side note, just commenting on what you just went through. I think my favorite part of that, because there's both sides of it, right? As well. I think the Austin Reeves, and you could see when they went overseas, he was the most popular player over there. Anthony Edwards, I think, was the best player, but Austin Reeves is the most popular. So you're gonna get both sides of it. I just love when Caruso left the Lakers. He's made a first team all defense. His first team all defense, and I think I forgot his name. Something Noah made a defensive players ranking list. The whole league. Draymond was 1, Caruso was 2. And AD was 3. So I think that just like depicts to me kind of like what was going on there. But in any case, I hope this isn't the year that they sleepwalk in. I think that my favorite thing about this schedule is we're gonna learn very early how good this team is or how far they are. Right? I just think you're gonna have a lot of tests early. Obviously, Denver opening night on the road, always a tough place to play, even though they're getting their rings and there's that extra little juice and motivation there. But right from that, you play Phoenix, I believe, is the next game. Game right after that. That Phoenix game is at home. Right after that, you go to Sacramento, who just had their best season in 20 years, who has a chip on their shoulder, I'm sure, to prove that it wasn't just some fluky first round. It's going to be crazy in there. You talked about how other teams hate the Lakers. Sacramento really hates the Lakers. Like the other teams have like a little we're not even thinking about you, you're thinking about us type of thing. But like Sacramento, they really do. They have a blood and hatred for the Lakers. So that game will be on fire. And then you play Orlando, I believe, at home, another up and coming young team. But you're gonna learn very easily and quickly, even how good this team is. So hopefully it's not a sleepwalk. The point of having continuity is so that you can come into a season with the wheels revved up and with the car revved up, and you don't have to try to wait for it to warm up. Hopefully that that helps them early on. But this is not a season, I think, where you can walk into the regular season and try to slow play it, because I think you play so many good teams early on. I think we have the Clippers soon as well, as like pretty quickly before while the
it's going to be so this is a great segue. But my segue is there is a real chance. I don't want to say it's a real chance, but there is a chance.
No, it is a real. It's
100%. And for the folks that tuned in, this will probably be the last question, and then we'll start bringing some guests up so that we can get your thoughts on some of the season predictions and whatnot, whether they're Laker related or not. But this leads us to one of the things that I wanted to bring up, because this could go one of two ways, or maybe there's three ways, right? Like, to be fair, there's a version of this where through our first 10 games, we're just 5-5. We get some, we look good. We look good in some of the losses, and we lose to some teams that have, better continuity, like Denver. and whatever it may be, right? And we start 5-5. I think that's like that's like a decent situation with how much roster turnover that we've had.
Sure.
But there's a version of this which I'm sure Laker fans would love. We start off like, I don't know, first 10 games we go like, let's say 7-3, and we get a win against Denver and we get a win against the Suns, and we do the impossible and finally break the losing streak against the Clippers or something, something crazy like that. And we end up getting a bunch of wins. And 7-3 is very respectable. It's not crazy, but it's a very respectable 10-game run to have. And I'm sure Lakers will be super, Laker fans and everybody will be super happy that we started off hot. But there's another version of this where we could start off like 4-6 or 3-7, and not because we're a bad team, but because of the same exact reasons we might end up being 5-5. Like, there are some other teams that have better continuity than us. We're still trying to work some things out. Assuming nobody gets hurt or anything like that. It's just, it's no different than any other team. I know when the Heat were originally assembled, they had like a 500 record through like 26 games, and then they started rolling. And my number may be wrong, but like that's always been like the Cleveland Cavaliers were the same way. Like they were kind of rough starting out, and then once they hit like this certain point, they started just kind of rolling as a team. And so in my mind, what I'm thinking is if it's 5-5 or 6-4 or 7-3 or anything better than that, that's great. Honestly,
Sure.
If we start out 5-5, I'm not gonna be upset about that, because I think we've got a very tough schedule starting. Like, we're playing the Kings, we're playing the Nuggets, we're playing the Clippers, we're playing the Suns. Like, the Pacific Division is a bloodbath. Like, it is. All four teams are going to probably make it to the playoffs, and it is not going to be easy to do it, or to win that division. What are your thoughts about? Obviously, you're going to be happy if we have a hot start, or anything better than 500. What are your concerns if we have a slow start? And let's say nobody's hurt, but let's just say we're losing some games to continuity. Do you think people are going to panic? What do you think it's going to be when that happens?
Oh yeah, of course there will be widespread panic. I do think it's important when they to get off on a good start, even with the record that they have. So last year we lost our first 5 games, right? It's a long season for sure, but it gets late fast. I mean, like it gets late really quick. And I would argue, we started 2-10. I'd argue we never recovered from that fully. Like I just think like even though they made the play-in and stuff like that, I just think you had to go through hell to get back from really the 2-10 start. That's just a huge hill to climb back up after you've fallen that far. And I think that, to me, that's where you don't want to get out of it. You don't want to be so far behind where you're playing playoff games in February. So if you start 5-5, I think I don't think Laker fans want to hear that, but I think that's an acceptable start for at least the difficulty of teams you're playing. You play the Warriors as well, right? In that stretch, you play the Clippers. I think you mentioned the Kings twice. Like it's a tough road to start. But you can't be like 0-4, or like 0-5. I understand the level of teams. You have to get some wins as well within that. You can't just lose to all the good teams. Be like, well, it's a long season. We'll get it back. We'll get it back later. Like, no, you can't talk all this continuity and deepest team in the league, as Austin has said, and and all the stuff that LeBron and AD have spoken about of how they're ready to, come back this year and prove it and come back and attack the season and start off like 0-5 or 1-7 or something like that. That's just puts you too far behind the 8 ball to me, where it's going to be really tough to recover. But yeah, there's definitely a world though, Renee, where they're like 0-3 to start. There's a real
Dude,
world
if they start off 0-3, it's gonna be like, remember last year when they were 0-3 and they benched Russ? Like, I can already see the stories being written and people like, oh, do they need to make a change? Does Taurean Prince need to come out of the starting lineup? Do they have to go back to Vando? You know what I mean? It's good. It's just yeah.
In all serious note, like even if they start 0-3, I want to at least learn something from these games.
Yes,
right? Like
I agree.
I don't want to go down 25 and then we put in South Bay. You know what I mean? Like no, that's not what this time is for. I'm not like Jalen Hood-Schifino, love his game. I think he'll be ready maybe in a year, but like he doesn't need to be running pick and rolls in Denver if we're down 30. Like I want to make sure, I want to see what we have, because I do think there's still some questions that need to be answered that, frankly, I don't think we're answered in preseason. Just because of the guys who are available and the lethargicness of some of these preseason games that I saw. But I think we need to know what our second unit is. We need to know which backup big plays best next to AD. We need to learn what our backup defensive coverage is versus what our starters defensive coverages are. And that's stuff that that's the good thing about playing good teams, Vinay, is that like you can test stuff out and if your stuff is working, if it's right? Like if you test your stuff against and it's hard to even pick a tanking team. I would just go straight to Charlotte. But like if you're playing like a
Yeah.
Charlotte team, right? And like it's hard to learn what you're doing works, right? You don't know
Yeah.
is your defense good or are they just a really bad team? But if you're playing Phoenix, you're playing Denver, you're playing the Kings who were the best offense last year and look like they just continue to shoot the lights out. Like you play those type of teams, you can at least learn what works and what doesn't. Like to me, the player that will have the fastest switch to me, Vinay, is Christian Wood. Christian
Mm.
Wood's gonna have the absolute brightest light on him. I can already I can already see the feelers being put out there. Does Christian Wood fit on this team? And I've expressed concerns of that as well.
Yeah.
And if you don't think Denver and Phoenix are going to involve him in every single offensive action that they
Yeah.
do, they absolutely are. And I think we need to learn where he fits. Obviously, Vanderbilt coming into the lineup. Like, there's a lot of questions that I have that even if you're 0-3, I can get answers to. And I think that's the most important thing. Obviously, winning is what you want to do, but like, I think just getting answers to questions that I think still are unsolved from preseason due to resting guys, starters only playing a half, Vando out, Gabe out for the last few games, and then giving South Bay guys all those runs. Is Cam Reddish a rotation player? Like, I think we got some answers to that, but I feel like he's going to continue to get a shot. So those are things, at least in the first few weeks of the season, you want ironed out to where you can hit, the ground running and collect some wins. But like that, to me, that's the most important thing. If you're 0-3, but we know like, okay, this doesn't work, this lineup can't play, that's the stuff that you want to get out in the regular season, which we couldn't last year. When you're 2-10, it's, pull the emergency alarm and we need to win every night and we need to put out all the stops to
Yes.
win that game. And it's hard to learn and build anything when you're just, trying to put a house that's burned down back together. You can't really build. You're just trying to, trying to build yourself back up. So hopefully this season they don't have to go through that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I won't be surprised if we do start off like 0-2 or something like that, and the panic button gets hit very quickly. That's been kind of the
Mm-hmm.
temperature and the way that social media has sort of been moving. It's just it is what it is. It's not a big deal. But we certainly don't want to go into a 2-10 hole. I agree with you. Okay, so Raj, so let's do this. We're going to start bringing up some folks. So if you would like to share your Lakers season predictions, feel free to hit the request button on the mic, and I'll bring you guys up, and you can share your thoughts, whether it's Lakers related or if it's if you're a fan of another team. You're always welcome to come in, kind of give your thoughts, whether it's on the Lakers or your team specifically, or something in regards to the league. Go ahead and hit the request button, and I'll start bringing folks up. And if nobody wants to come up, that's okay also. I guess me and Raj can keep volleying questions back and forth. So Raj, I'm going to switch my headset over to the space itself, and I'll start seeing if people want to come up and tell us their thoughts. But in the meanwhile, as we wait for some of these microphones to kick in, talk to me about the pressure on Ham. I feel like he's got a good enough roster now, and I'm sort of concerned that because he has a better roster than he did last season, there might be a little bit of a spotlight on him, and like the expectation of him pushing the right buttons. And we already saw it kind of in the preseason. Like, hey, why is this guy on the floor, and why is he getting reps? Like, are we sure he knows what he's doing? That sort of thing. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that the fan base will have a tolerance level for him?
Yeah, hopefully it's not a Mike Brown situation in 2012 where I believe he coached the whole year before that. The Lakers played 5 games. We ran some Princeton offense, which obviously the whole team looked like they hated, but we drilled that in to fit, I believe, to fit Dwight Howard. And yeah, he was canned after that. No, I think the playoffs buy you at least some time at least. Like, I think if you saw him at least get through a 2-10 start and able to galvanize a group and keep them together, I think the playoffs buys you time. And then I think he proved that he's at least he's a good coach. We're gonna learn a lot this year. Again, I think last year was tough to build anything in the beginning of the season. He got a whole new roster, traded in, and I've been excited what I've seen. The 5-out stuff, the offense looks good. It's flown correctly. I was, preaching last year when we had Matt Ryan and we were running a bunch. By the way, Matt Ryan today, shout out Matt Ryan, got signed by the New Orleans Pelicans. A nice contract for him. So I still believe in Matt Ryan. But yeah, when we had like Matt Ryan on the team running actions and he was having him come off screens, I was like, man, can we give this guy one shooter to open up his playbook? Came from Milwaukee, obviously, and I think he looked fine. He outcoached me. He at least coached head to head with Steve Kerr. Outcoached Taylor Jenkins in some respects, and obviously Denver did what they did. But I'm excited to see, and I think it is a lot of pressure. It's the first season, Renee. Do you know like we've had a top 4 seed once in the LeBron era?
Really?
So we got the 1 seed the first year.
Yeah.
No, sorry, first year with LeBron, we missed the playoffs.
Yeah, we
Right,
missed.
Lonzo gets hurt.
Yeah,
Brandon Ingram gets
we
hurt.
were like close to we were a top 4 seed in December, right? Before
Right,
everybody
but
started
we never finished a top 4 seed. Right, like
Oh, wow.
so first year didn't miss the playoffs. Second year 1 seed. Third year is the title year where I believe we make it like as an 8 seed and play Phoenix in the first
Yeah.
round if I remember that correctly. Next year missed the playoffs again with Russ's first year. Year after that, last year is a 8 seed or 7 seed wherever we got to. But so yeah, so I've never been a top 4 seed once in the LeBron era. And this is the first season in a while where there's like high expectations of a dominant regular season team, and I think that also falls on the coach. Coach is the first guy that gets blamed in all that. But I'm excited for Darvin Ham. It was weird seeing Frank Vogel yesterday, coaching in Phoenix. I thought that was strange to watch. But a little weird watching Frank Vogel on the other side. Not gonna lie, that was a little strange watching all his mannerisms.
Yeah.
I remembered all of them. The nervous look in the timeout. That didn't go as planned look. I recognize all that stuff from Frank Vogel and the little. I know he was cheering inside when he went and kicked the Lakers, but I'm sure he felt good doing that, as he should. Like he should feel like he as he should. But like it was funny watching him on the other side.
I'm just gonna say I'm always thankful for the championship that we won under him. I don't think he got a very fair end of the stick, but I also think some of that had to do with him. So we'll agree to disagree on some of this stuff, some of the sentiment when it comes to him. But
He took a year off and fell right back into a
yeah.
contender lap. I think that's fascinating. Like took a year off, fell right back into the lap of a contender. Like I think it's funny.
You think I don't know if you see, so we've added I added Shub, Coach
Nice.
Shub as his Twitter handle likes to go.
What's up, guys?
Shub, what's up? What's up, Shub? Thanks for joining.
Yep.
Being kind enough to join us up here. Trying to get people to come up here and talk Lakers basketball with us, but I guess Sunday night people are a little too shy.
You guys make them nervous with your basketball knowledge. It's a lot. Raj breaking down film he texts me about, like it's a lot. It's intimidating.
Yeah, I guess we're very regular folks. People can come up and talk, and doesn't we're not going to dunk on anybody. And I don't have any cool sound effects like you guys have in the coach's den. So
I know.
I need
Very
to get
annoying sound effects.
Yeah,
That's straight.
Personal favorite is the boing sound that you guys like to let off.
I just recently found that after a year of hosting them, so I agree. I found that out last week.
Yeah.
The soundboard's crazy, yeah.
So Shub, what do you think about do you think that the fan base, knowing what we know with this roster, do you think they have like a level of tolerance for Ham's lineup experimentations?
That's a really good question. I don't think the fan base has tolerance for anything.
Fair.
Like Darvin Ham could have, I think people got mad Darvin Ham didn't get a tech last year. Like that's how much tolerance they have for everything. But I was talking to Rome like last week and even Raj about this. Like we were just like I was personally brainstorming like how many ways, because of how versatile I think the roster is, that Ham could essentially like mess it up at different points in the game. Obviously, it's very situational, but I just believe in the depth of the team so much, as we've seen from all these first halves, these 6 preseason games, that it's very, very few ways, situational wise, like the teams that we're facing, that Ham could really fuck it up. Like, obviously, Patrick Beverly, Russ, and another small guard, I forgot who we had.
Dennis.
Lonnie Walker.
Dennis or
obviously,
Lonnie.
Excuse me. I'm happy Dennis is that far away from my brain that I'm forgetting his name. But, like, I think that's a much worse circumstance we had to deal with versus D'Lo, Gabe, and Reeves on the floor all at once. So I think Rob did his part answering those kind of questions to the point where I don't think there's going to be a lot of groaning when we do see a supplement of 5 people that necessarily don't fit together. You would. What I'm saying is I think Ham would have to purposely try hard to mess this up.
Like, I think that's true. He'd have to work really hard to put out a lineup that like maybe a Cam Reddish at point guard lineup. Like if you're really trying
without a doubt.
Trying to do it. I'll bounce this back to Raj, and we'll start bringing. So I see some of the hands being raised or the requests in the chat, or in the space. So I'll make sure to add some folks. I'll bounce this next to Raj. Raj, we're going to see 3 guard lineups. Like that's going to happen. Like that's coming, but it's not going to be 3 midget lineups. It's going to be 3 guys that are 6'4" above. There's only one guy on this team, I think, that's under 6'3" or under 6'4". I think that's Gabe. Is the only guy who's that short. That's part of the normal rotation. So we're going to see 6'4", 6'5" guys majority of the time if we decide to play 3 guard lineups. I think it could actually go in a positive direction this time because they're bigger guards. They're not smaller guards. They're not going to get overwhelmed by wings and whatnot on the other side. Are you going to lose your mind if you see that and we start struggling with rebounding?
If I want to lose my mind, I don't think so. I think these guards are at least a lot more skilled. My issue with the 3 guards last year wasn't that they were 3 guards. It was they were 3 guards that couldn't shoot. I think that was more the issue for them is that the advantage usually of going small, right? The advantage of going to 3 guards is to up your skill level, to be able to be quicker, to be more offensively, to lean more into offense. And to me, those guards didn't do either of those things. So you really didn't get the advantage of going small, and you didn't get the shooting advantage. You were just quicker, which at times that helped. I just think that was such a disadvantage defensively. So I won't lose my mind. I think Austin, Gabe, and D'Lo should play. We also have a glut of forwards though, so which I'm interested to see how many 3 guards lineups we get, especially if Vando's healthy. Hopefully he's healthy to go. But I think the glut of forwards at least, and the glut of centers, right? It feels like Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood are going to be a part of the rotation. It's hard to get 3 guards in there when you're going to have, at least one other center, at least one of LeBron and AD, right? And at least one of the wings. Like, it'd be pretty impressive to have 3 guards out there at one time with this roster, at least, because at least last year, the guards on the team, as frustrating as it was, were the top of the talent level on the roster, right? And I think at least this year, those guys aren't. So if Shub's still up here, I just want to know if he's still going to look at how many times Darvin Ham keeps his hand in his pocket. So is that for last year?
That counter is still going. He's under contract with us, so that bet is still going, and you can catch all those times Darvin Ham has his hands in his pockets on All Access Lakers with me and Raj live streaming every game.
Yes,
and we'll be on Darvin Ham Pockets Watch.
Pocket watching. That's a new type of pocket watching.
Absolutely, bro.
Yeah, it's a different way of pocket watching.
Just more respectful. Yeah, and to the point of frustration, like I alluded to earlier, Vinay, where like he's just not getting irate, not ripping into the refs. Any egregious call, it's just the same stern face with the pockets in his watch. If I serve correctly, like I don't think Darvin Ham got more than 2 texts the entire season. So I mean, that's a good or bad thing depending on what type of fan you are. I lean the other way. It's like, bro, as a head coach for 82 games plus the playoff games, you got a total around like 6-7 texts. Yeah, let them know your presence. That's just me though.
Yeah, I also heard that Darvin Ham asked Rob Pelinka to make sure that he hard capped the Lakers. So then if he gets any salary cap questions in the post game, he's going to be can't do anything, bro. This is the lineup we have. This is the roster we have. We're hard capped.
People forget that the 2-10 start, a lot of the salary cap questions on Darvin Ham post game. He was just like, listen, I'm not Rob here. I don't know what y'all want me to do. That was comedy.
I felt so bad for him. Yeah. But, so, hopefully Ham has, a better roster. Has a better situation.
Yeah. Vinay, to add to Raj's point, if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
One thing I was going to say is that I'll never forget Darvin Ham's reasoning early last season for when he like proclaimed the 3-guard lineup and his reasoning for it. He was just like, I just want everyone out there to be able to pick up the ball and push it in transition and all that type of stuff. And when you look at, Patrick Beverley bringing up the ball, it just was never it. And then, just Dennis Schroeder, not the best transition player in my eyes either. Just didn't fit like what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And so when you have guys like, I saw Christian Wood bring it up this preseason, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jackson Hayes had a couple possessions where he brought it up just fine. AD, obviously, no one's nervous when he's bringing up the ball up. At least most of us aren't. Now the roster kind of makes sense for what he's trying to implement. So I agree with Raj tenfold, where it's like you're not as nervous putting 3 guards out there because it's kind of they're more inclined to do what he's envisioning, and that's pushing transition. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're right. I think he had to be very diplomatic with his explanations last year, and hopefully he doesn't have to do that as much this year because guys are better, more complementary to what we were trying to do with our offense. So I brought another person, Shell. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but Shell, if you're there, you want to share your thoughts? I'm not. I think you're a Laker fan. If you're not, it's okay. Thoughts on the Lakers? Any things that are top of mind from the preseason or predictions that you have for the upcoming season? What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, a Laker fan here. Yeah, thanks for doing this. It's been fun following it. I think one of the predictions this season is going to be somebody on this team has to break out, and I'm not talking about AD, LeBron, and Reeves at this point, but I think the stage is set for somebody to break out, not to become like a star or a superstar, but to have like a really good season where before maybe they were, averaging, I don't know, 12 and 10, but now the average has gone up maybe a few points as well. I think that person could be Rui. I think the stage is really set for him to make an imprint, make a name in this league, I guess. So I think that's one of my predictions. Somebody on this team has to break out. It's about the others this season, I feel, and it could possibly be him.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's probably something that we didn't ask. I know I told Raj before we started the space that that was going to be one of the questions I asked, but I don't think I ended up getting to it. Like, Raj, what do you think about that? Like, I think Shell brings up a good point. Like, Rui is kind of the guy people were saying he should start, and now they're saying that he's a better fit coming off the bench. You and I have talked again ad nauseum about he is the perfect sub for LeBron, the volume scorer. Give him the ball as much as you can when he comes off the bench, and if you have to use him for scoring. That's what he's good at, scoring at different levels. Is Rui the guy that jumps off the page this season for you?
Yeah, it has to be. I like that Reeves is already in there. I think Reeves' jump is going to maximize kind of where the team ceiling is. But I think that's what they're hoping for too, right? You listen to all the stories and what came out over the summer. Rui trailing LeBron, shadowing LeBron all summer. You can't shadow LeBron all summer and then average like 3 points a game, right?
True.
Like hopefully there's some fruitfulness into that. But yeah, it's funny. I think the Rui needs to start. That ended quick. That was all summer, and then 3 games of Torian Prince, and that went out the window. And I was like, yeah, bring Rui off the bench. But I think it makes sense for him. I'm interested to see where he gets his shots from. He's obviously still trying to find himself in the flow of it, and I think off the bench, he just clears his head to where he doesn't have to focus on a ton of things. He doesn't have to be Torian Prince, right? Torian is very clear. I'm attack closeouts only. I'm getting my spot up threes. Rui can play around in his wheelhouse. He likes to have the ball in his hands, the mid-range jump shot, the fadeaways. Had a bad game, the final preseason game, but I think they're expecting a big year from him. They paid him, obviously, and even coming off the bench, I think they're looking for his offensive production in that second unit. I'm interested to see. I haven't really liked the Rui and Wood lineup so far, so hopefully we'll see how that clears his offense up, but it's definitely geared for him. It feels like he broke out in the playoffs, and usually the playoffs are a place where players develop at a exponential rate. Like once you go through a playoff run, you're able to come back to normal NBA defense and be able to improve. So we'll see with him, but it comes back to the jump shooting with him as well. We'll see where his catch and shoot threes are. I think the story with him all summer has been how real is the jumper, right? He's like the number 1 3-point percentage shooter in the history of the NBA, I think, in the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, he shot like 60% or something crazy in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, some ridiculous number, especially in the first round where he torched Memphis. But even if that's not hitting, because he's not going to hit out at some 60%, I think that turnaround stuff, all that stuff in that mid-post area, able to attack advantages to where a team doesn't have their best defender on you, their best defenders on LeBron or AD, their most physical defender, right, most bruising guy. And I've seen a little uptick of him at least trying to, when he gets to the rim, look for the open guy on the outside. The passes haven't been clean, but I'm looking for a big year for him. Should be in that 15-point a game kind of range. I feel like him and Gabe can work really well off each other as screeners and stuff like that. So we'll see. But I agree with you. I think Rui's set up for a big year. If after Austin, he's probably next up, especially offensively, right? Everyone else, you kind of know what they are. D'Lo, I think you know what. But we'll see if D'Lo can jump, I guess, another just tier of player. But I think you kind of know what he is. Rui's the one that's really set up after getting a full training camp. Obviously, he was only here half a season. And in a more spaced out offensive floor. We'll see what he can do. But yeah, I've liked what I've seen so far in preseason.
Yeah, no, I'm with you too as well. I think he's been fantastic in the preseason. You know, outside of this last preseason game that he had. Shell, did you have anything? Any other thoughts?
Oh,
Go for it.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, like, but at the same time, like you mentioned about the slow start, if we do have a slow start, do you think one of these guys are on the trading block then because of their contract value and
Oh man,
yeah, like Rui and D'Lo, I guess, are in that category. But and you mentioned Alex Caruso earlier on. Do you see him as a fit on this team? I don't even know if that roster really works out, but something like that. I mean, if we have this really slow start come December.
Yeah, let me. I think so. In the nature of just kind of the situation that the Lakers salary cap situation is in right now, because we're hard capped, all the moves are very limited in general. So anything that we do would have to be like the dollar would have to be pretty close to 1-to-1. So we can't do like the thing that we did with Russ, where we take back more money or another team takes. Like it'd be a little bit more trickier. I don't think if we have a bad start, I don't think it's going to stop fans from wanting to trade the players. One of the things that I think we mentioned on the pod a few times is, aside from how great the contracts are that we've extended these guys to, they're also very tradable contracts if they're productive players. And so I think the Lakers are always. If you had to ask Rob this question, if I had to answer on behalf of Rob or as Rob, I think he would say that they're always looking for opportunities to become a better team. And if that opportunity comes up, then they'll strike. If they think it's an opportunity that's worth it, if it won't mess up the chemistry of the team and whatnot. So if we're doing badly with what we expect to be an improved roster, then I definitely do think that they'll consider it. I don't know if they actually will do it, but I think they will consider it because I think the Lakers situation is a little more complex than one season. Like, we don't know how long LeBron's going to be here. We don't know, where he is at with whether he wants to retire or what he wants to do in his career. So there's a tricky situation that they have to navigate. And I think they're taking the right steps by getting quality role players. And in case, maybe he gets hurt or AD gets hurt or LeBron decides to hang him up. And I don't think it's going to be this season, but you just never know with how basketball goes. But if we start out badly, I'm sure a lot of names will be hitting the timeline. Trade packages will be. Because what do you think?
I was gonna say how worried are you guys that Kyrie Irving will be a topic of conversation come February? And I'm so sad that's like a serious question I gotta ask and consider.
Saying if the universe aligns and the Mavs start out slow and the Lakers start out slow and Kyrie gives his reasoning for not wanting to play, I'm sure that would come up. I'm hoping that's like, I don't want to. D'Angelo Russell's last name, I've said this whole season, has been tradable contract. You can't, like, whenever you hear his name, it's D'Angelo Russell, tradable contract. Like, that's the analysis on him. And last year, obviously, the Buddy Hield, Miles Turner stuff started in October. Well, it started in the summer, but when the Lakers were 2-10, it was throw the picks for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. So I'm hoping that. And the Lakers still have, picks they can move, and that's part of it. That's part of the business, right? And Rob wouldn't be doing his job if he wasn't canvassing the league for better trades. But I'm hopeful that
I agree. And like one thing and hopefully the Kyrie saga has been over as of when he signed in July. One thing during the whole saga was like, I just want it to happen if it makes sense, and free agency was an avenue for it to make sense. But that chapter is closed. The book is, in my opinion, completely closed. Call them tradable contracts. They're just team and player friendly contracts as well. Did we see what Rui got? Like, it took me back for like 5 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Like, you got that. Actually, you earned it too, so I'm fine with that. But it's still a hefty pay. So I mean, like, and even for D'Angelo Russell, it gives him a tradable contract, yes. But I think they met in the middle, and this is me just inferring here, where okay, you like this is where we're at. And me personally, me and Rome were just like, it was to the point where like I almost felt like he got disrespected to the point, and people forgot the regular season numbers with that dollar amount he got. But I think with what was left over, because they made Reeves and Rui a priority, they were like, hey, here's another contract year for you, because remember, it's a 1+1.
Mm-hmm.
You can opt out of this one, and we could potentially have more money for you, and we could talk this up again next summer, and it's almost like a prove-it deal for him again. So I mean, I'm in the place where the Kyrie stuff like doesn't make sense right now because we're so loaded. But what Raj was saying initially, where I could definitely see like the Mavs having a falling out, and
Oh yeah.
They come out to us or whatever, that's more likely than us not working, in my opinion, because of these, awesome role players that we have. So I hope that the chapter in the book is closed on that whole thing, but it's not going to stop headlines from kind of pursuing that narrative about Kyrie Irving and the Lakers.
Yeah, I had Dallas as a team that doesn't make the. Hopefully, there's not too many Dallas fans or no Dallas fans listening to this space right now. But I actually had Dallas as a team that might not make it to the playoffs, only because I don't see the defense on that team. Like,
Yeah,
it's your best two players don't
Not
play
there.
defense, and that's usually not a good thing. And if you're going to have a team like that, then you have to have really really good defensive players around them. And like they have Derek. I think Rod, we've talked about like Derek Lively. Rookie, you're expecting him to clean everything up. Grant Williams,
Max
okay,
Prosper.
maybe he's a decent defensive player. You still have Tim Hardaway there, Dwight Powell. I'm trying to think of the other guys that they have, but it's just like I don't know where the defense. If they have a regular season defense that keeps them, they could shoot the face off of a lot of teams probably, but outside of that, I don't know. So I think you're right, Chubb. It could certainly be a situation where Dallas looks to move on from whatever they have going on in that moment, and they try to call us for our role players.
But no, like the reason I don't think it'll happen, not because of Kyrie and the Lakers have turned their backs on one another and said this is not meant for us. I don't think that's the case here. What I think it is first of all, Luka is again the lead for MVP. I think this is like third year in a row where the NBA is saying that Luka is going to win the MVP. He should give you a floor of wins at least. That guy is so spectacular where I think he's kind of at his prime level where he's at least worth 44 wins. But the thing though, if you trade Kyrie Irving for D'Angelo Russell and whoever, you're asking Luka to leave. I mean, that to me that's the first exit door for him. That's the reason I don't think it'll happen. The Mavs have to sit with this. They've made their bed. Their bed is Kyrie Irving, which is a very dangerous one to live in. That bed can collapse at any time. That bed can collapse while you're sleeping at night. Like it could just collapse on the floor. Kyrie Irving decides tomorrow, I'm done for some reason that he chooses, and you're out of there. But I think they have to sit with this. You just signed a 4-year deal, and you've made your bed. The Kyrie, Luka, you're building your team around that. And if you trade that for whatever the Lakers offer, you're asking Luka to leave. So that's the reason I closed the door on.
That's very fair. So we're getting right to sort of our limit here, Raj. So let me ask a final question to you guys. I think for Raj, Shub, and then Shell, since you're still up here, you can help answer this question. I'll start with you, Raj. Do the Lakers win 50 games, over or under?
Ooh, I'd say over.
Over 50 games. Okay. All right. Shub, do the Lakers win 50 games, over or under?
Literally, when I was tapping into your guys' space because I saw season predictions, I was answering the question. The first prediction is obviously how many wins we get.
Yeah.
My number was 48 to 51. That was my range. So I have a very hard time answering that question because it could be any of those. But for the sake of this, I'll go under. I'll go under 50.
You go under. Okay, so under, but close to 50. So there's some context, but just under. All right, Shell. So Shell, you're going to be second to last. I'll give mine. But Shell, what do you got? Lakers 50 wins, over or under?
Well, if we're healthy, I would go if we're healthy, I would go just over at 51.
51. And what if we're not healthy? What do you think we? Let's say LeBron and AD play. Let's say they play like 60 games out of the season, just enough to make the All-NBA.
I think enough. I think they win the mid-40s range, like 45.
Yeah, so I'm with. I think I'm with you guys. I think even with a healthy season, we probably finish somewhere between 48 and 52 wins. I think anything higher than that, and I think it's like 2020 again, or 2019, 2020, that year where we were just running through teams and nobody was expecting it to be that good. I think that just because the Western Conference is freaking nuts this
I
year,
was gonna
dude.
say.
There's
It
just
is.
too much talent in the West right now, and it's not going to be easy to win games on a nightly basis.
Because Vinay, like, just remember that 2020 season, like nobody was talking about 27 teams.
Yeah.
It was the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Bucks the
Yep.
entire season almost. That's how head and
Mhm.
shoulders we were above everybody running through teams. You can't have that kind of season anymore with the conference that we're in.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think this is definitely one of those seasons where you could get a lot of, like, we split the season series with a lot of teams. Like maybe we go 2-2 versus the Suns and 2-2 versus the Kings,
Sure.
that sort of thing. So and the Nuggets. So I think we might see a whole bunch of teams that are like all smushed together between 45 wins and like 51 or 52 wins, and they're just separated by a couple of games.
And I'm
So
excited. I'm excited for the team, just like everyone else's. But we had an amazing roster
Yeah.
post trade deadline. We lost to the Pacers at the buzzer.
yeah,
We lost to the Thunder twice. Like, this shit happens on
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday nights. Like, even with the best team on the planet, so people got to really factor that in. But I think if health permitting, though, Vinay, I would like to slightly change because I didn't know that was an option. But
yeah. Go ahead.
LeBron and AD are 65 plus. Like, I got us at 51, 52 for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's
Okay.
entirely reasonable. I think there's probably going to be. I'd be very shocked if there's a team that was like that won more than like 52 games in the Western Conference. I would expect it to be a little bit more competitive than that. So like then to be like really high 40s, really low 50s, sort of thing. But yeah, that's everything that we've got for today's space. Raj, did you have any last thoughts? Did you guys, or Shell, did you guys have any last thoughts you guys want to get off before we conclude the space?
Oh yeah, don't forget about the in-season
Oh
tournament.
yeah,
That's going to make it even more
yeah.
competitive.
That should be fun to see what that's like. Let's see if I can try to make it out to Vegas to see if I can watch that championship game. Raj, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I also think, like, obviously the league is super
Yeah.
talented, but some teams are gonna rise to the top, others gonna fail expectations. So there's always some kind of separation. I think even last year people thought that it was supposed to be competitive, and then Denver
Yes.
just ran everyone out of the door because they were Denver. I think didn't even try the last month and still won like 52 games. Sacramento, I think, had the healthiest season maybe ever. They had all their starters play like 75 games. Some like rare
Yeah.
stuff like that happens. So. And Memphis, obviously, just losing Steven Adams today for the whole season. Obviously, they have Jaw out for 25 games. That's another contender that I feel like bites the dust a little bit there because I'm wondering how they survive without that. And we'll see with the rest of the West. Oklahoma City's going to try to win. Minnesota should be better. The Warriors, obviously, with Chris Paul, so we'll see with them. But Clippers, maybe finally healthy. We'll see. But it's interesting to see like the teams, I guess, who rises and who doesn't. But I'm 50 wins. I want at least one other good regular season, and we got one good regular season with LeBron so far. Like at least we're due for
Yeah,
more.
no, I'm with you. So with that being said, I want to thank all the folks that joined the space. I want to thank the guests that joined the space. Shub, always wonderful to have and talk to you about Lakers basketball. Always entertaining, and I feel smarter every time. And Shell, I wanted to also, I thought you were going to say something. That's why I paused for a second. But Shell, I also want to thank you for joining too as well. Appreciate your questions. Appreciate your predictions and kind of your thoughts on this Laker team. And for all the folks that tune in, we appreciate all the support. Like, subscribe, share, whatever it is that you do. We appreciate it, whether it's on here on Twitter, on Apple, or on Spotify when we end up posting this later. And if nothing else, the NBA season is almost here. We're 2 days away, and I'm sure everybody's going to be super excited. So we appreciate all the folks that tuned in, and if nothing else, we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.
Appreciate you guys.